and notifying Congress of my intent to rescind North Korea's designation as the state sponsor of terror in 45 days. If North Korea continues to make the right choices, it can repair its relationship with the international community.
Today, the United States is designating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism. Should have happened a long time ago, should have happened years ago. The North Korean regime must be lawful. It must end its unlawful nuclear and ballistic missile development and cease all support for international terrorism, which it is not doing.
President Trump announcing what had long thought been coming, even maybe on his Asia trip, adding North Korea to the state sponsor of terror list, a list that's infamous. North Korea added to the list in 1988 after the bombing of a South Korean airliner. And then the Bush administration, as you heard there, removed North Korea from that list in 2008 after the regime met all nuclear inspection requirements. North Korea has since helped Syria and Iran with their nuclear and missile development. It also has close ties to Hamas and Hezbollah. So the other state sponsors of terrorism, Iran, Sudan, and Syria, and now North Korea. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard. Mara Eliason, national political correspondent of National Public Radio. And from Southport, North Carolina, Bill Bennett, former education secretary and host of the Bill Bennett Show podcast. Panel, thanks for being here. Steve, your thoughts. It's not a surprise, but it is a significant action.
It's a significant action, and it's long overdue, in my view. President Bush was just wrong what he said in June of 2008 about North Koreans' action. Remember, in 2006, North Korea tested a nuclear weapon. In 2007, they were caught red-handed proliferating nuclear technology to Syria. The Israelis eventually took out the Syrian reactor that was designed like a North Korean reactor, and there was intelligence showing that North Korean scientists had helped in the effort. So despite what President Bush said there in that clip you played, North Koreans hadn't been behaving well, and this was part of the problem. This is part of the history of U.S. diplomacy with North Korea. They behaved badly, and we reward them with preemptive concessions, as President Bush did when he took them off the state sponsor of terror list. If you look at North Korea's activities since they've been taken off the list, you can look at the assassination of Kim Jong-nam, of course, in the Kuala Lumpur airport. You can look at additional arms and weapons shipments to Iran and Syria. You look at additional nuclear technology, the further proliferation of nuclear technology. This is not a country that's behaved as if it wants to stay off the terror list. And I say all of that in addition to repeated assassinations of people suspected by the regime, outside of the regime, of undermining the regime.
Mara, you look at the list of missile launches, missile tests just in the past few years, and it's pretty staggering. If you look at 2017, 15 missile tests, 23 missile launches, 2016, 16, and 21 going back through the years. They've been adding up quite a lot.
Yeah, there's no doubt they've been accelerating, and they really are rushing to get a missile that can reach the continental United States. What's interesting about this move today, I think it is symbolic. That's what Rex Tillerson said on a rare visit to the White House briefing room. He also said that as a practical matter, it might not make that much difference since North Korea already is the subject of so much tough sanctions, but it does send a signal that the U.S. is going to be tough about this, and it's just one more punishment that we can put on North Korea. We're still waiting to see if the Chinese will do what Donald Trump says he wants them to do, which is to cut off all those oil shipments to North Korea.
Yeah, Bill, here is the Secretary of State in the White House briefing room today. Take a listen.
Do you believe that the United States is running out of diplomatic options to respond to the nuclear threat of North Korea?
No, I do not. It is very symbolic on the one hand because it just points out again what a rogue regime this is and how brutal this regime is and how little they care for the value of human life. The practical effects may be limited, but hopefully we're closing off a few loopholes with this.
Bill.
Yeah, well, this is a declaration of civilization for civilization. I agree with the other two panelists. I don't think it adds too much. I wonder what the right decisions were that President Bush was talking about that they were making. I don't recall them. And Steve had an excellent litany of the wrong decisions. The only thing that seems to be happening now is it's possible that they have calmed down a little bit. We haven't seen a lot of missile launches lately. And I think maybe the president can get some credit for that. Certainly, his work with the president of China has helped in this regard. This certainly doesn't hurt. And again, the judgment of all civilized people is that these people should have never been, this government should have never been taken off the list. Good thing it's back on.
You know, recently in the region, talking to leaders there, including the Japanese Prime Minister, there is a feeling over there that increased sanctions, even though this is the most sanctioned country in the world, might work. Here's the Japanese Prime Minister Abe. Is there anything short of military action that you think can be done to force North Korea to denuclearize?
North Korean dialogue just for the purpose of dialogue is meaningless. That is our experience. We have decided to cut back 30% of oil as well as other petroleum products exported to North Korea. And as winter comes on, this will be quite effective on North Korea.
So, Steve, there are hopes that this is actually going to move the ball.
Yeah, and I think that there are tweaks that we can make to sanctions to ratchet them up and potentially apply some new ones. The question at this point to me is why haven't we implemented the full order of sanctions already? I mean, why is it the case that North Korea has been able to behave as it has without being fully sanctioned? It's true that North Korea is one of the most, if not the most, heavily sanctioned country in the world. It seems to me that we should make that clear. And the one thing that what President Trump did today does is it applies some clarity to this situation. I mean, we do regard them as a state sponsor of terror. There are implications to that, and beyond that, it does send a pretty strong and I think important message.